Am I the a-hole for giving my mother-in-law a fake copy of my house key and exposing her on Christmas dinner? I want to preface this by saying that I, 34-year-old female, married my husband, 37-year-old male, years ago. His mom is snoopy and annoying as F. She can't help it, that is just how she is, as my dear in-laws say. My husband and I purchased a new house recently. My mother-in-law kept pushing to get an emergency key. She promised that she only use it in an emergency, but given the fact that she had an emergency key to our old apartment and walked in on us being intimate twice, but my husband didn't think that it was a big deal, I just couldn't trust her. So I sent her a fake key after she kept pushing, and she had a smug on her face after I hand-delivered it to her. Days passed by, and on Christmas dinner, mother-in-law angrily called me out on the fact I gave her a fake copy of the house key. She shamed me for doing this in front of everyone, but in my defense, I asked her how she found out, and she said days ago when she came over at 4 while my husband and I were out. I reminded her, "Didn't you promise you wouldn't use it unless there was an emergency? So you tried to get in when there was no emergency and you broke the promise you made to us." She looked red in the face and the other families started staring at some even laughed at her for the face she made. She suddenly got up from her seat and rushed into the kitchen where she had a huge meltdown so loud the next door neighbors must have heard. Literally, I've never heard a 60-plus-year-old woman throw a tantrum like that. Needless to say, dinner went awkward, and my husband and his sister were giving me looks. My husband went off on me in the car and said I lied and manipulated and humiliated and exposed his mom and said he wouldn't have let me get away with it had he known. We had an argument, and he's demanding I apologize to his mom for my childish behavior and for ruining Christmas dinner for the whole family. Am I the a-hole? No. No, you are not. I don't think you're the a-hole at all. What an absurd thing for your husband to get mad about. She lied. Like, your husband sounds like a little bit of a mama's boy, okay? I'm sorry. And there needs to be boundaries. Boundaries can be very healthy. And there's nothing wrong with being really close to your parents, especially as you get to adult age. You want to enjoy the time that you have with them. I mean, I am now 40 and my parents are in their 60s and I want to enjoy all the time I can with them. I love to go and see my mom and hang out. She is like a friend to me at this point, and it's wonderful, but there are still boundaries, you know? If my mom just came barging into the house whenever she wanted because she had a key, I'd be upset. I'd be like, you can't do that. You need to call ahead, let me know, unless it's an emergency. And it's fine if your husband doesn't want those boundaries. Everyone gets to decide that stuff for themselves. However, your husband also decided to marry you and be in a partnership with you. And therefore, he has to respect your feelings on the matter, which he's not doing. So yeah, maybe you pulled a little bit of a trick just to, be able to call her out on it or whatever. Might not be the best thing, but I don't think it makes you an a-hole. I think it makes your mother-in-law an a-hole, and her little tantrum, that's not your fault. She's a grown woman, and she needs to act like it. Friend Crank called me at my job, so I had him served with a fake paternity suit. 10 years ago, a friend of mine called me several times in my office over the course of a day. I decided at that moment that 1, this would not stand, and 2, rather than entering into a long, protracted quagmire of a prank war, I would use the nuclear option and end it immediately. My friend Mike was a well-known local bartender. I worked at the same bar as a bouncer. And he was very much enjoying single life at the time, facts which I knew I could take advantage of. Soon a plan began to form. I would have him served with a fake paternity suit while he was working at the bar. So I compiled a ton of free online legal documents, not just for the paternity suit, but also income disclosure forms, statements of parental rights, and suggested visitation schedules pending demonstrable proof of sobriety. I filled out all the forms, then smeared what looked like date-received stamps as proof they had been filed and ran copies to make those stamps even more illegible. From there, I crafted a backstory to be included in a cover letter from the fictional mother's fake law firm, the nearby city Family Law Center, on letterhead and all. The mother was an Irish exchange student visiting the area the previous summer. She'd only been with Mike, so she knew the baby, Eliza, was his. The cover letter encouraged Mike to call during regular office hours to discuss arranging a DNA test to affirm paternity. I set up a generic voicemail for the number listed as the office on the letterhead. By the end, the paperwork was somewhere between 20 to 25 pages. I enlisted another friend not known by Mike to serve the documents and instructed him to do so around 10 p.m. on a Saturday evening. I told him to keep the interaction very simple. I wasn't able to be by the back bar because I knew I would be laughing too hard, but based on eyewitness reports, it played out like this. Friend, are you Mike last name? Mike. Yes. Michael middle name last name? Yes. Friend drops folder on the bar. Mike, what's that? Paternity suit, you've been served. Turns around and immediately walks out of the bar. Mike, yeah, that sounds about right. Mike read through the packet, shakily poured himself several drinks, and then ran over to the bar owner, who was aware of the prank, to ask what to do. He also called the number on the letterhead, but sadly did not leave a voicemail. After a solid 10 minutes of intense psychological revenge, the owner finally told Mike he should closely read the last page of the packet. On it, in size 2 font, it read, "Go F yourself, Mike." At which point, Mike ran to the front door and punched me in the chest. Epilogue. Several months later, Mike was on a trip across the country. He left his car at home with his mom, who generously had it washed for him. Mike, for some reason, kept the paternity suit paperwork in his driver's side door. During the course of the car wash, his mother found it and read the entire thing, then called him sobbing in the middle of the night, asking why he hadn't told her about her bastard Irish granddaughter. Okay, the mom finding it and thinking that she has a grandchild she doesn't know about and those emotions, I feel a little bit bad about that part of it. The rest of this is perfect because it's not like you strung Mike along for like days and made him panic and all this kind of stuff. You had a friend deliver it. The owner of the bar who was there to supervise this, was there to make sure Mike didn't do anything drastic, It was 10 minutes of panic for him as a get back for all these crank calls and everything. And I'd say, look, if you're going to start crank calling someone, you're entering into a prank war. That is a declaration of a prank war. And what comes next, to certain degrees, is fair game. And I would say that this is the extreme of what is A-okay in a prank war. This is not just A-okay, but expertly done. The details you put into all of this, the amount of time that must have been spent putting this all together, making sure like the stamps and were smudged right and all this kind of stuff, to make sure everything was great, just to give him 10 minutes of like panic and worry. That's admirable. So, bravo. Entitled kid chokes me while his mom is watching, then tries to make me give him my PS4 because I punched him. This is my first story here. Please be gentle. Also, this story is more about the kid than the parent, but the parent was supporting the behavior, so, our cast. EK, obvious. EM, entitled Mom, obvious. Me, super obvious. Neighbors 1 and 2, 2 neighborhood kids. Note that the neighbors are actually pretty cool. The entitled kid was just older than them and so had some authority. And so it begins. One summer day last year, I had just turned 14. I was playing some basketball with these two kids from my neighborhood in their driveway. Their family is pretty rich, so they have a fully paved driveway big enough to be a sizable court. It's just me and them for about half an hour until Satan's son himself came over from down the street. This kid is the really stereotypical little crap who made the select soccer team 3 years ago and still thinks that he runs the place. So we let him join the game and everything is fine for a bit. I'm a little bit on the bigger side, but I'm really strong, so I play really well as a center, posting up and that. And the entitled kid is guarding me and he's getting worked. He's shorter and not as strong, so he's getting dominated. Here's the major incident. I've just grabbed a loose ball and I'm running back towards the basket. The other kid gets back before me and stops my drive, so I start to back him down again. He must have just been really frustrated by him not getting a chance on defense, so he thinks up a plan. At this point, I was wearing a hoodie and the effer grabs my hood from behind and pulls as hard as he can. I, not expecting my airflow to be cut off, especially while I'm breathing hard, start to panic. I can't shake him off my back. I don't know how long he's hanging on, but it felt like a whole 45 seconds. They may not seem like that long, but I'm freaking the F out, so it feels like forever. An eternity later, his grip loosens, and I finally get him off. I'm effing fired up, so I punch him right in the nose. Definitely not as hard as I could, but it certainly would have hurt a lot. This little crap, however, he drops like he's out cold. Meanwhile, I'm on my knees trying to get my breath back. He's bawling his eyes out, he's rolling and screaming and all that, being the melodramatic turd that he is, but his mom is running over, and it was that moment where I knew I was effed. Now, sometime between when he started and when I socked him, his mother came out, but she's the typical, I want to speak to the manager, white upper middle class mom who volunteers to be the head of the PTA every year and goes to Starbucks 20 times a day, and the entitled kid is very much her son. Entitled mom, oh my God, redacted, are you okay? What did you do to him? He just nearly choked me out, so I punched him. Why would you do that? You're so much bigger than him. But he was choking me. Come on, dude, you've got to be more mature about this. What do you expect me to do? Apologize to him for making him choke me? This whole thing goes on for a while until the neighbors step in to try to protect me. Neighbor 1, OP really didn't do anything wrong. Neighbor 2, yeah, he didn't even hit him that hard. Entitled mom, but OP shouldn't be hitting people in the first place, especially not my son. Yeah, she actually said, especially not my son. Neighbor 2, but it was basically a trade-off. Why are you guys trying to protect him? You should probably go inside. You don't know what you're talking about. They keep trying to help me out, but to no avail. This just goes around for another 5 minutes before entitled kid finally gets up and limps, yes, limps, back to his house. I go home because I'm sick of this crap and I'm tired. The next day I try to go back over, but the entitled kid is there already. Neither of his parents' cars are there, so I assume that he's staying at the neighbor kid's house until they come back. I decide to go back inside because I don't want to interact with him. A couple hours later, entitled kid shows up at our door with his mom standing at the gate of our fence. Entitled kid, hi, OP, I was just coming over to say sorry for choking you yesterday. I won't ever do it again. Me. Okay, thanks. I'm sorry that I punched you. At this point, my mom comes to see who I'm talking to and she asks what's going on. Entitled mom pipes up and says, we are here for your forgiveness gift. Me. My what? Entitled mom, your forgiveness gift. It's a tradition in our family that the person who apologizes last has to give the other person something to make up for it. My mom, excuse me, what's going on? I explain what happened, and as I explain what happened, she seems to get more and more disgusted by the situation. I finish explaining and turn back to entitled kid who had tried to correct my story while I was explaining it to my mom, saying things like, he punched me twice in the face and then he kicked me in the nuts while I was crying on the ground. My mom is basically a bomb-sniffing dog for lies, so I can see from her face that she knows that's BS. I turn back to entitled kid. My mom, I'm sorry, but we don't do forgiveness gifts in this family. Entitled mom. We do in this one. Entitled kid, pick something out. Entitled kid looks around and saw my PS4 and he points at it. Mommy, I want that. Keep in mind that this kid is just about a year younger than I am. Too old for mommy. Too old for this whole situation, in my opinion. Entitled mom walks up to our door and sees it's my PS4. Great, we'll take that as our gift. My mom, with steam billowing out of her ears, slams the door in their faces and quickly locks it. They start pounding on the door so hard it sounds like they're trying to break it down. We leave the door, but they stay there pounding on the door for at least another 5 minutes before finally leaving. I still leave my neighbor's house anytime I see him walking down the block. Forgiveness gifts? I can't! We're here for our forgiveness gifts. You apologized last. Now what will you give to us? What the... I'm sorry. This is the dumbest crap I've ever heard. Oh, no. Oh, entitled mom. She started off kind of normal parent to me. Like, okay, her kid got hit. She's going to be maybe a little irrational and not listen to the situation because it's her kid. But nope. She she took it to the next level that next day with forgiveness gifts. What a ludicrous thing. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, sure, if it's a thing in your family, whatever, I guess. But also, to then be like, oh yeah, give us your PS4. My little boy wants the PS4. I want the PS4, mommy. Like, what? You have to know how unreasonable that is. You have to know what a ridiculous, entitled dork you sound like. That's too much. It's like, I'm just struggling to fully imagine this person and also struggling how you wouldn't just be like laughing in her face constantly. How does anyone take someone like that seriously? Like, oh boy. Oh man, I needed that. Oh, you know what? I like entitled mom. I like that I don't ever have to deal with her, but I like that she exists because she's a joke. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.